Hello, my name is Dante Renee, and welcome to the 10 Room Bizarro YouTube page where I talk about movies that I believe need to be talked about more. Tonight's film is 1970's The Lickerish Quartet. Yes, I have this on VHS. You can get this on DVD and Blu-ray, but this is the copy I have of this film, and this is a Lickerish Quartet right here. This is 1970, and this is directed and produced by Radley Metzger, who I believe also did some other films like Score and a variety of other types of erotic art type films, bizarre, weird type films. This is one that I never heard of before, and there's a quote from Andy Warhol on the front of it. It says, "An outrageously kinky masterpiece, the Lickerish Quartet from 1970." Well, folks, I really got to tell you, this is something I was not expecting whatsoever. Something really out of the norm here. This is a movie that really plays with the movie that you're watching. There's a very intriguing storyline in this film. It's a very simple story, but it's very intriguing. It's a story that you're kind of sucked into and you want to keep watching. There's something mystifying about it, yet it's so simple at the same time. And I mean, essentially we have a husband and a wife and a magician son of theirs, and they like to watch erotic films, and they go to a carnival one night and believe that one of the actresses from one of the erotic films is at the carnival, and they invite the woman back to their place. And this is where the lines of reality and surreality, if that was even a word, start to really come into play here. The movie that you're watching mixed with the movie they were watching, mixed with the mystery and the surrealness of this woman that they met at the carnival that they believe to be, the woman in this erotic film. First off, we have amazing, just this husband, wife, and son live in this sick, real castle. I mean, there are some shots on the top of this castle when they're like walking on the top that are just insane. I mean, they live in a castle, so there's already, we got a thick atmosphere here. There's thick gothic atmosphere. There's just really, it's mysterious, intriguing. Almost feels like it could be a horror film at times. And the relationships and the characters of the husband and the wife and the son are very interesting. I mean, the son almost reminded me of an older version of this horror film put out, a very unknown horror film from the 80s called, I believe it was just called Trick or Treat, where the son was a magician, kind of playing some pranks. But this son is, taking magic into new heights here. And there are very bizarre cuts and edits and shots in this film. Now, the shots in this film are very artfully done. People consider this the bridge between softcore and art house, as they say. I could see just by watching this movie that there was a very strong artistic bent in this film. I mean, the shots were very artistic. But this was not really the typical sexploitation film that I was expecting at all. What we have here is a film that unravels and is mixing seeming black and white footage of other films that the people that you're watching seem to be in when they're saying something. And then we have elements of the film that you're watching, the Lickerish Quartet, that's almost as though somebody has it showing in their mansion, in their castle, and that we're now involved in this. And it just keeps going back and back and back and back. And there are some very seemingly random cuts of other films, but it starts to ravel and climax and make sense as the Lickerish Quartet moves on. And we have these lush greeneries and fields around this castle. And of course we have sex scenes in this film, but the sex scenes in this film are really not explicit. We just have a few. The most explicit sexual scenes are really coming from the film that the family in the castle watches. This black and white type of stag type film. And we do have a lesbian sequence, and then we have some heterosexual. We have male female sequences. Um, and while the sex scenes are really not explicit, there are some mildly explicit shots, especially in the butt area in one particular scene. And there's very interesting things going on in front of the camera. I mean, that's one thing I could say, that this film just is constantly, you're just kind of, you're sucked in this simplistic yet there is something otherworldly happening in this film that you're not aware of, and something that is above you or beyond you that you're constantly trying to figure out or constantly trying to discover. And it is definitely, occupying and inhabiting some other space. I mean, this film is seemingly normal. That this is what makes it so crazy. It's seemingly normal, but you're very well aware that the discussions that are happening in the film and the situations that are happening in the film are very not normal, and that you really don't maybe understand what's going on. And there are these interesting kind of sidelines to the story, which are the story in this movie, that are so weird. Like, just, even the son being a magician and his magic show that he puts on, and making somebody disappear in the castle, and then all of a sudden people are looking for this person. It's a very intriguing storyline. And the main girl who's on the front here, who's kind of the main girl of the film. She's very attractive, very alluring. She actually has black hair in the film and also blonde hair in the film. And this is it says it was filmed in the castle of Balsarano in Italy's Abruzzi Mountains. So these were not sets. This is the real deal right here. I was not expecting, this film whatsoever. The music in this film, especially in the first half, it really sounded like this crazy giallo film music. Really cool music. I don't think this has ever been released on a soundtrack. I don't know. I haven't looked yet. But really kind of giallo, awesome giallo type music. And then in kind of the second half of the film, it almost reminded me of like Eugenie from Jess Franco. Like that kind of like ba ba da ba da ba, like that jazzy kind of tropical, erotic type Brazil, Brazilian type music. Really, really, there's a darkness in this film, but there's no violence in the movie. There's no quote unquote horror. But there is definitely something ominous taking place throughout this film. And obviously there is a strong erotic core, although it's coming from places that you're not really maybe would think that they would be coming from. There's a film that I'm going to be looking at on this YouTube page in the future called Myra Breckenridge. And this film reminded me of that film for some reason, but they're really not similar in tone at all. But it's in the process of the film. It's in the edits of the film. It's in the way that the film uses other films and other footage in the way that it cuts and moves and kind of sucker punches you throughout the film. Folks, this is the Lickerish Quartet. For mature audiences only, it says here. There's no rating on there, but just for mature audiences only. It says no one under 18. This is 1970, Radley Metziger. The Lickerish Quartet, amazing acting, amazing characters, very, very intriguing. I would say this is the ideal film for somebody who, they might not like sexploitation all that much or erotic films all that much. This might be the film that crosses them over into that realm, because this is not an explicit film, and the sex scenes are not that long, but sex is a huge part of the film. And yes, you will even see you will even see the words penis and fuck and on the screen in a particular scene, and some other words as well that are very like phallus and things like that. Anyway, you can actually see pieces of that on the cover if you look behind her. But this is a great kind of bridge for somebody who's, you know, not really sure if they like erotic films or sexploitation films. This is a film that I really believe on a more mainstream level could suck a lot of people in, and they're not even realizing. Now there are some, you know, implicitly explicit sections of this film, especially the lesbian scene. I thought was the most kind of the most intense sexual sequence in this entire film, and it comes near the end of the film. But this is a very deep film. It's a very philosophical film. It's a very, I guess, sociological film in some form or fashion. Dreams, desires, passions. What happens in the night? You know, what happens in your mind? What happens with your passions? And what happens at the carnival? The Lickerish Quartet, 1970. Thank you so much for watching the 10 Room Bizarro YouTube page, where I talk about films that I believe need to be talked about more. There are tons more reviews on this page, many, many more to come. Tons of Jess Franco on this page, and so many other things. Please feel free to check out my personal films at youtube.com/poopydiarrhea. Thank you so much, and have a great night.